It is the early morning of June 22nd, 1941 in Berlin, at 4 a.m. to be exact. Soviet Foreign Minister to Nazi Germany, Vladimir Dekhanizov, receives a diplomatic note from German Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop. In this note, it accuses the Soviet Union of sabotaging German assets, as well as conspiring with the United Kingdom against Germany militarily. As a result, Adolf Hitler has stationed his Wehrmacht units across the Russian-German military border, as well as the Romanian border. They have orders to attack their objectives, and war with the Soviet Union is imminent. Hi, I'm Andy Brown, and welcome to History and Gaming, where we play military video games and talk about the real-life history that they're based on. In this episode, we'll be playing Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, a World War II game primarily set on the eastern front of the conflict. In this mission, we'll be joining the German Army Group Center with their attack on the village of Glushkovo during the battles of Vyazma and Bryansk, about 4 months into the invasion of the Soviet Union. But first, a little bit of backstory on the war leading up to this. Germany invaded the Soviet Union on the morning of June 22, 1941, commencing the beginning of Operation Barbarossa. The operation took place across a massive 2,900-kilometer front line stretching from Romania in the south all the way to the Baltics in the north. For this operation, Germany was able to amass a staggering 3 million troops, supported by 3,500 tanks, 7,000 artillery pieces, as well as about 2,500 aircraft. This made up about 150 infantry divisions, as well as 19 panzer divisions, making this the biggest invasion ever in human history. To kick the invasion off, the Luftwaffe began a massive bombardment across major Soviet cities from Sevastopol in the south, all the way to Kronstadt in the north, as well as Soviet-occupied Polish cities that the Soviets had secured during their invasion of the country earlier in 1939. Once the aerial bombardment was complete, the artillery began a massive bombardment across the entire 2,900-kilometer front line, from which the armor and infantry would soon be advancing from. Germany had 3 army groups ready for the invasion, with the newest being Army Group Center, specifically created for Barbarossa after the fall of France in 1940. Army Group North, commanded by General Field Marshal Wilhelm Ritter von Lieb, was to attack the Baltics in the north, as well as secure the city of Leningrad. Army Group Center, commanded by General Field Marshal Fedor von Bock, and containing General Oberst Heinz Guderian's famous panzer divisions, was to make the dash to Moscow. Army Group Center, commanded by General Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, and containing Manstein's 11th Army, was to secure Ukraine and the Crimea in the south. For this video, we'll be concentrating on Army Group Center, but Groups North and South will be receiving more coverage in future videos. The Soviets have been suspicious of an invasion for some time now. Generals Georgy Zhukov and Semyon Timoshenko had been receiving worrying reports that Luftwaffe aircraft were crossing into Soviet airspace on the daily. As a result, the two generals approached Joseph Stalin and requested to put forces on the western borders. Stalin denied these requests, however, believing a German invasion would not be coming until at least 1942. As a result, the Soviets were caught completely unprepared when the invasion began. Not to mention, Stalin's great purges of the 1930s had seen many of Russia's great and most experienced generals executed or imprisoned in Soviet gulags. The Red Army in 1941 was filled with inexperienced and somewhat incompetent officers who were afraid to stand up to Stalin or even disagree with him in fears of being executed or imprisoned themselves. In one example, General Dmitry Pavlov was viewing a comedy play in Kiev on the night of the 21st, when he received reports that an invasion was most likely imminent. Instead of rushing to his command post, he decided to stay in the theater and finish the show. When Germany began its invasion of the Union on the 22nd, the Red Army had about 5.7 million men spread across multiple army groups, supported by 117,600 guns and mortars, 25,700 tanks of varying classes, and about 118,700 aircraft at their disposal. However, as I mentioned before, they were not spread across the front very effectively, and thus did not hamper the German invasion in the beginning weeks. The Germans enjoyed great success on their first day of the operation. Heinz Guderian's 2nd Panzer Army was able to advance a staggering 80 kilometers and smash through the Soviet 4th Army's line of defense, commanded by Lieutenant General Alexander Korobkov. They then moved on to the Brest fortress, where they engaged the Poles in their 1939 invasion, and then on to the city of Minsk, commencing the battles of Bialystok-Minsk. After the battles of this city was over, the Germans secured about 300,000 prisoners, as well as destroying the Soviet 3rd and 10th armies. The Soviets put up very poor resistance in this area, and as a result, General Dmitry Pavlov, who oversaw Western Command, was subsequently executed by NKVD officers after accusations of incompetence leading to Soviet failures. General Andrei Yermomenko would take over his command. Hermann Göring's Luftwaffe was also able to deal massive crippling blows to the Soviet Air Force. In many cases, German planes were able to destroy Soviet ones before they even took off from the airfields. Some reports suggest that the Germans were able to destroy up to 1,489 Soviet planes on the first day. However, these reports are most likely modest, as Soviet documents suggest up to 3,966 planes were destroyed in the first 3 days of Barbarossa. The Luftwaffe was also able to harass Soviet supply lines and logistical lines, making the defense even more disorganized than it already was. After these initial successes, Smolensk was the next city on the way to Moscow to secure for von Bock and Armored Group Center. Fighting for the city commenced on July 8th with a Soviet counterattack on German positions not far from the city in the area of Ypel. About 1,500 Soviet tanks participated in this operation. However, the majority of them were destroyed when they ran into rather stiff German anti-tank resistance. By the end of this counterattack, the 2 Soviet mechanized divisions that commenced it were virtually annihilated. After this, Guderian was able to launch his Panzer II Army on a surprise assault across the Dnieper River on the 10th of July, encircling more Soviet divisions along the way. Fighting for the city of Smolensk finally came to an end on September 10, 1941, and the Germans were able to secure it. With Guderian crossing the Dnieper on July 10th, less than a month after Barbarossa began, the invasion was going quite well. However, heavy rains began to slow down the speed of the operation. Once August came, the Germans had been able to secure a rather impressive amount of Soviet territory. However, the speed of the invasion was not going as fast as once hoped. When Barbarossa began, Hitler and the OKH, German Army High Command, expected the operation to be a success within 3 months. The Rasputitsa, which is what the Russians called heavy rain season, was also beginning, turning the majority of roads in the Soviet Union into treacherous mud pits due to the fact that most roads in the country at this time were not paved. The Germans suffered from quite a large amount of delays in the month of August. Ideally, they could have used this time to secure more land and encircle and destroy more Soviet divisions. However, Hitler and the OKH could not see eye to eye on what the next step of the invasion should be. Hitler wanted to strike deep through Ukraine and Crimea into the Caucasus mountain region in order to cut off the oil supply to the Soviet Union, crippling it economically, and supporting the German war effort. He also wanted to prevent Soviet bombers from using Crimea as an airbase from bombing vital oil fields in Romania. The OKH, on the other hand, saw it more appropriate to attack the capital of Moscow. The delay in the operation in this regard allowed the Soviets to prepare even more defenses before the advance started once again. With Leningrad under siege in the north, and von Rundstedt's Army Group South making gains in Ukraine, Moscow was selected as the next target for the invasion. However, the Germans would have to act quickly, as winter would come early this year, and with it more issues to deal with. It is reported in some German and Soviet war diaries that in early October, the first snow of the year fell and quickly melted, causing the roads to be even more difficult to traverse than before. When Operation Typhoon was beginning, the Luftwaffe had sustained a rather large amount of casualties at this point, with about 1,603 planes being shot down and a further 1,028 being damaged to the point of unserviceability. Due to this, the attacking ground forces would be forced to rely on hard blitzkrieg tactics in substitution for a lack of air support. The Germans planned to attack, encircle, and destroy as many Soviet units as possible during the operation. Once the Germans reached Moscow, they did not plan to invade the city proper, but to trap and encircle it, much like what was going on in Leningrad under von Lieb. A northern attack force would secure the northern flank of the city, cutting it off from the Moscow-Leningrad Railroad, while simultaneously a southern attack force would secure the southern flank. Both attacking forces would meet on the eastern side of the city, thus entrapping it. German High Command believed that once Moscow was secured, it would only be a matter of time before the Soviets surrendered. However, to take Moscow, German Army Group Center first had to secure the areas of Vyazma and Bryansk in order to occupy one of the few paved roads on the way to the capital. This is where we find ourselves today in the game. The Russians were able to amass about 1.2 million troops for the defense of this area. However, the 2nd and 3rd Panzer Groups were able to smash through the defensive lines and secure a rather large amount of territory, entrapping about 4 Soviet armies in the process. These entrapped Soviet armies attempted to break out with vicious fighting. However, they failed, and subsequently were all taken prisoner or killed. By the end of the fighting, the Germans were able to secure about 600,000 Soviet prisoners. However successful, the battles of Vyazma and Bryansk stalled the German advance to Moscow, allowing the Russians to prepare better defenses for the city. Up to this point, the Russians had feared a potential Japanese invasion in the Far East and had armies stationed there in defense of. However, with the Japanese military now wrapped up in a war with the United States and the Pacific Islands, the Soviets no longer feared such an invasion and felt it safe to bring these armies up in the defense of the Western Front, specifically in the areas of Moscow. In this mission, we'll be attacking the village of Glushkovo, about 70 kilometers from Vyazma, as shown on the map here. We'll be joining German Army Group Center, the 3rd Panzer Group, and we'll be attacking the village in conjunction with Operation Typhoon in order to secure the Moscow highway. We'll be fighting elements of the Soviet 16th, 19th, 20th, and 24th Armies, mainly infantry and armor units, as well as some anti-aircraft units being used as a direct fire against armor and infantry. Let's go ahead and jump into the game and see how it goes.
It is October 1941. What the Germans call Operation Typhoon just entered its 3rd week. The final push to capture Moscow proves very hard for the Wehrmacht. Now that the Rasputitsa is frozen solid, the offensive may be moving quicker, but it's also getting very cold and the Germans are not equipped for winter. That doesn't change the fact that they are still in a hurry to get to Moscow. To get there, it is essential to capture the towns along the Moscow highway. This road, one of the few paved roads that lead to Moscow, is absolutely essential to bring forward the reserves and supplies that will be needed for the Germans to capture the Russian capital. In an attempt to trap the 32nd Army, which is defending Vyazma, a 2-pronged attack is staged to take the last major town on the highway before Moscow. This mission is part of the North Pincer, which moves forward to cross the Dnieper River at Glushkovo. This small village will prove a big test. The attackers will need to be very cautious and very quick at the same time. It will be paramount to secure this river crossing as quickly as possible.
Alright, so there you have it. A little opening cinematic there. Gives you a little bit of back information on what's going on for this particular level here. It's October 20th, 1941, and as mentioned earlier, we're attacking the village of Glushkovo, just north of Vyazma there, with the 3rd Panzer Group, part of Army Group Center. Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and start, just as I said earlier, we're going ahead and securing this village in order to secure that paved road that's on the way to Moscow to make the attack towards there in Operation Typhoon go a lot smoother logistically and whatnot. And we have those trapped Soviet armies that I mentioned earlier in this pocket here as well, so those are the guys that we're going to be fighting. So we'll go ahead and press play here and see how this attack goes and see if we can make the advance to Moscow any easier for Army Group Center.
Soldaten, we have orders to clear the road for the attack on Vyazma, but the village ahead keeps us from crossing the Dnieper and is heavily defended. We must seize the Dnieper crossings and drive the enemy out of this sector. I expect nothing but the very best from all of you.
Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the action here. We've got some vehicle crews. We've got a Panzer 38, the Czech tank that the Germans captured from Czechoslovakia when they annexed it. I believe that was in 1938, could be wrong. We've got our armored car here with a 2cm, 2mm autocannon. So we're going to go ahead and split this infantry squadron here. We got a rather large infantry squad. We're going to go ahead and split it up into 2 sections. Real quick here. hard to get at when they're all bunched up there like that. Alright, so there we go. We're going to split these guys into two groups. We're going to have one group go up on the left flank in the bushes, and we're going to have the remaining group head over onto the left flank, or I said right, I meant right flank in the bushes, and we're going to have the remaining group head over to the left flank of that road there. Further up this road, the village of Glushkovo begins. We have some Soviet emplacements. We have a trench here with some infantryers and whatnot. Soviet T-26 machine gun tank, along with a 76mm field artillery cannon that's being used for direct fire and whatnot. So we're going to want to move up there cautiously and not let that cannon do any damage on our vehicles while we're moving up. So in the meantime, we're going to move this infantry up and try to hit that cannon, take out the anti-tank assets before we move our tanks up. Soviet armored car here with a 45mm cannon on top of that moving in, so we're going to want to take care of him shortly, as quick as possible. We'll go ahead and get infantryers to lay down alone. That way they're going to be a lot harder to hit. Don't have no smoke, so what I'm going to do is flank them. We'll move these guys up here into that trench. Reach on that tank. T-26 is taking good damage there. Go ahead and flank this cannon. Good boys. Let's get our vehicles to move up and engage that. Looks like we had a Soviet T-26 tank just move up, so we're going to want to get these guys to come and engage him. Yeah, there he is right there. In the meantime, we'll have our infantry fall back into cover so he can't hit him. I'm going to keep those guys right there, because if they start moving, we're going to get taken down pretty easily by them, so just let our vehicles move up and take care of them. Go ahead and take direct control of this Panzer 38. Missed a turret on that T-26 there. And that T-26 crew just bailed out, so that tank is out of action. I think this PT-7 is too. Just be safe to go ahead and fall down him. Alright, we can move these guys up into the trench there and we can start engaging that infantry along with our armor. Only got 4 guys left in that squad? No, come on now, we got more than that. Oh wow. Yeah, we lost 2 men there. Okay. We still have, our medic went down, so go ahead and pull up a motorized infantry squad reinforcements right away so we can use the medic in there to revive him. Car up there to assist in the clearing of that northern entrance of the village, eastern entrance of the village. He's got some targets right there for him. Excellent. Still got one guy actually. Map's showing one more guy in this trench system here, so we'll go ahead and clear that. Yeah, there he is. Move our troops in there cautiously and take care of him. Sanitator to go in there and take care of our injured Sanitator. Good job.
Excellent. The bridge access seems to have been cleared.
Go ahead and start calling some tanks coming up here. Some reinforcements in the west, along with the Panzerjäger 1 and another Panzer 35. Why not? We're going to want to bring some mortars up too. Mortars are going to assist you quite a bit in these missions here. We got 3 squads, yeah, 3 infantry squads, 1 small one though, so I'm going to go ahead and call on another motorized infantry squad. And get ready to move up. We're going to cross this field here and secure the northern river crossing here. We got the Dnieper River just up here, a little small portion of it that we're going to be crossing, so we need to secure this northern portion. Got some trenches and whatnot with the Soviet infantry and a 45mm anti-tank gun that we're going to want to take care of before we move our armor up there. So that's where the mortars are going to come into play. We're going to rain some mortars down on him and then push up the attack. So let's get those mortars in position and start getting ready for this. And get these infantry to move out right here actually. Get that tank move out of the way for future reinforcements. BT-7's gonna go down. Shot right on that turret. Yeah, he's done something going up right there. Excellent.
Sehr gut. Looks like the boarding area has been cleared of hostile troops. Soldaten, we are not done yet. The enemy still holds the other riverbank. It's imperative we break through and seize all the strategic positions.
Alright, so we've opened up this avenue of approach here for the village of Glushkovo.
Lieutenant, I have been told that we should expect the village of Glushkovo to be heavily defended. The Soviets are holding the line to prevent the encirclement of their troops between Vyazma and Bryansk.
So we're going to go ahead and set up a second attacking force.
Reserves and upgraded equipment are at your disposal, Herr Lieutenant.
We're going to go ahead and set up a second attacking force and conduct somewhat of a pincer movement up on the village here before we continue. And over on this side here, we need to, as I mentioned, we need to cross this portion of the Dnieper River right here. And we do have a bit of a Soviet emplacement, some trenches in infantry, and this is where the majority of those anti-aircraft guns I was talking about earlier have been deployed, and they're going to be using those as direct fire against us, so it can get quite dangerous if we don't move quickly on that attack. So, well, looks like these guys took a hit. We'll get them to go ahead and repair. And while they're doing that, we're going to go ahead and get our second attack force built up over here. So let's call in some more tanks. We got Panzer IVs now, so we're going to call in a Panzer IV along with the Panzer III. And we have Hanomag-borne infantry at the moment now, German half-track infantry, so we'll go ahead and use these guys too. I think I'm going to get one more tank to join up on that attack there. Another Panzer IV, and why not another Panzerjäger? And I want to get these mortars stationed up a little bit closer to this riverbank here, because we're going to lay down a smoke screen with them before we move up. And once those guys are in position, we'll be able to start moving up here.
Geht's los?
Let's start getting smoke downrange and we'll begin this attack here.
Bereit! Lade nach! Nachladen!
Get some hits on that infantry too, even excellent. Now you take a direct hit from a smoke round, it's gonna kill you. That looks like a pretty good screen. I think we can start moving up here. Just fire out one more round. Alright, let's start getting up there, boys. These guys took a hit. God damn it. Kind of want to concentrate on this before I start concentrating on the other attack, the other side of the village, because these anti-aircraft guns, man, they can get quite dangerous moving up on them, so... we just got one more.
Das ist ein Befehl! Wann geht's los? Haben wir noch? Rechte Flanke absichern! Stellung halten!
Yeah, it looks like we've cleared this area. I've just got some infantry need to take care of, and this is clear. Perfect. Those anti-aircraft guns, man, they can be pretty vicious, as you just saw there. Alright, we got one more soldier out here we missed. Let's take him out. He's down in this trench here.
Rechte Flanke absichern! Angriff, Männer!
There you have it. Got a medic here. We can go ahead and start tending to our wounded on this hillside here before we move on. Try to get as many soldiers back as possible.
Wir brauchen hier vorne dringend Munition!
Sanitäter ist unterwegs.
Rücken wir aus?
Still okay, yeah. He looked dead for a second.
Schnell jetzt! Ich werde gebraucht.
Ich glaube, ich hab's erwischt!
Wie lauten die Befehle? Sanitäter!
Jawohl!
Bin unterwegs. Bereit.
Ja? Alles klar! Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle! Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit! Panzer meldet sich einsatzbereit!
Sanitäter bereit.
Wann geht's endlich los? Mir nach!
Braucht jemand einen Sanitäter?
Ja,
Befehle? Was sollen wir tun?
jawohl, so verstanden. Bereit!
Wann geht's denn endlich los?
Panzer einsatzbereit! Panzer meldet sich einsatzbereit! Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle! Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit!
Yeah, still working away on that one there. And we'll get our mortars to move up. In fact, I'm going to get mortars to change positions over here to assist in the push up to this area of the village.
Panzer meldet sich einsatzbereit! Panzer einsatzbereit! Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit! Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle! Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit!
Wie lauten die Befehle?
Panzer einsatzbereit. Achtung, Feindpanzer! Achtung, Feindpanzer! Feindbeschuss, rechts! Feindbeschuss, links!
Zu Befehl! Mir nach!
Wo kommt der denn her? Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle.
This thing's still wrecked, man. Alright, we're just gonna move on without him. Begin with hitting... We'll begin with moving up on this side. Panzer's doing good work there already, so he'll just actually stop. Some anti-tank guns, anti-tank cannons up in here. Gonna want to take care of them before they move up.
Lieutenant, scouts are reporting tank movements towards the village of Glushkovo. In this weather, the Luftwaffe cannot help you.
Yeah, this guy lost track. Imagine how terrifying this would be, like if you're a Soviet soldier, all these fucking tanks coming up at you like that. We've got something firing over here. Got a tank. Oh, we got a BA-6.
A fine display of tactical excellence.
We've taken the
soldiers.
village. Excellent.
The village has been neutralized.
Panzermeldung ist einsatzbereit.
So now we have some Soviets that are still over in this left side field of the village that we just need to clear out in order to secure the entirety of the area, and mission should be complete. So we're just going to move on and attack. We've got our guys over here in the village. We're going to leave the village a little bit and move up to the northeast and attack this the trench line here. They've got a couple anti-tank guns, light field guns, 76mm field guns they're going to be using for direct fire. So my plan here is to bring up a
Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit.
self-propelled field gun along with this Pack 40. Right here, here he is. This Pack 40 right here. And we're going to lay down some fire on those anti-tank guns. And while we're doing that, and we're going to lay down some fire on those anti-tank guns. Once we've neutralized those crews, we'll be able to move our infantry and armor up with that much more ease.
Panzer einsatzbereit. Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit.
Oh, we lost one of our Panzerjägers right here, it looks like.
Panzer meldet sich einsatzbereit. Geht's los? Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle.
Panzerjäger 1, pretty good anti-tank gun. Anti-tank, or tank destroyer, sorry. Not a tank destroyer. But the tank destroyer crews of World War II, Pack 38s, and specifically the Sturm. The Sturmgewehr, not Sturmgewehr, sorry, the Sturmpanzer, I believe is what they were called. They were extremely deadly vehicles during the war. The Allied and Russian tank crews were extremely fearful of them. They put the actual Panzer crews to shame in a lot of ways.
Panzer erwartet Ihre Befehle. Panzer, wir sind einsatzbereit.
Yeah, our field guns are getting ready to be put in a position here. There he is.
Panzer einsatzbereit.
Bereit. Was sollen wir tun? Wo soll das Ding hin? Dann wollen wir mal.
Panzer meldet sich einsatzbereit.
Jemand eine Runde Skat gefällig?
Now where the hell did that truck go with our pack? I know I brought 2 of them up, but I only found 1. That's weird. Oh well. No time to sit around and wonder where it went. Gotta move up now.
Soviet armored reserves are coming from the east.
There's some armor coming from the east. Move this pack up. We can help deal with them. This tank here. As well. But he's out of AP, so. Yeah, this guy's got heat, so we're gonna rush him over there. Soften it with him. Over there, okay. Got a BT-7 rolling up here. High explosive anti-tank round. Still got some infantry coming there. We're gonna get this infantry squad to put up some defense on them while we move in and take out the rest of this entrenchment system here. We've got a mortar team up here we're gonna want to move up on. Excellent hit on a Soviet tank there from a high explosive anti-tank round. And we got our mortar team over here. We're going to send this squad up to flank them and take them. They got a 82mm mortar.
Excellent job, Soldaten. This elevated position will no longer be a threat when the weather clears up.
And there you have it. We've successfully taken the village of Glushkovo, securing the Moscow highway, that much more. So victory. After Glushkovo, the attack on Vyazma succeeded and the Germans marched towards Moscow. However, because of the extreme cold and a large-scale Soviet counteroffensive, an attack on the Russian capital was no longer on the cards. Little were they to know that they would have to fight over the same place just a few months later. We were able to cause 266 casualties on the German side and destroy about 20 of their vehicles, and we sustained 260 casualties on the Soviet side, and we destroyed 20 of their vehicles, and we sustained 31 casualties of our own, and we lost 5 vehicles, so that wasn't too bad. We did a pretty good hit on them. So yeah, there you go. That's the gameplay footage, the gameplay portion of the video. I'm gonna go ahead back, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened after this, just a little bit about the failed attack on Moscow and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and do that there. Thanks a lot for watching.
The Battle of Vyazma and Bryansk ended on October 21st, 1941, one day after the mission we just completed, resulting in the encirclement and destruction of even more Soviet armies. However, once the winter fully set in, the Germans were caught completely unprepared. As mentioned before, German High Command expected Barbarossa to last a maximum of 3 months, and as a result, did not bring sufficient winter kit or clothing with them on the initial invasion. Now that the temperatures were below freezing, German soldiers were suffering from the cold on the daily. Supply lines were also stretched very thin at this point, and the poor infrastructure of the Soviet Union made it even more difficult for German vehicles to get supplies to the front line in time. Vehicles had to be maintained much more often and broke down much more frequently due to the cold. Even small arms became unserviceable sometimes due to the inexperience of the German soldiers fighting in such cold climates. The Russian units, especially the Far Eastern Siberian ones, handled this situation much better. Eventually, the Germans attempted their pincer attack on Moscow on November 15, 1941, attacking towards Klin. The Soviets in this area put up a rather stiff resistance, strategically retreating to defensive lines in the rear of their positions. Klin fell on the 23rd of November, 1941, and on the 27th of November, the 7th Panzer Division was able to capture a bridgehead on the Moscow-Volga Canal, which was about 35 kilometers from the Kremlin itself. However, the 1st Soviet Shock Army, at the time commanded by Lieutenant General Vasily Kuznetsov, was able to push them back in a massive counterattack. Other Wehrmacht units report being able to get within 29 kilometers of the Kremlin and report being able to see the domes of the buildings within their binoculars. However, Georgy Zhukov, in charge of the defense of the city at the time, was able to amass a massive counterattack, eventually changing the tide and pushing Army Group Center away from Moscow. He was actually able to get them all the way back to the Dnieper River by the winter of 1942. This has been History in Gaming. I'm your host, Andy Brown. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you like what you saw, please consider subscribing. We'll be doing more videos like this in the future, covering more points in history such as Vietnam and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, at this time, we will be concentrating on Call to Arms and World War II in general. If this is something you think you'll be interested in, please like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you next time in future installments. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.